Episode 158. A house so big, it belongs to her. Suicide. Hearing that word, Lila's heart thumped. Seeing the bodyguard nodding, Jake looked at her and saw that her hand was over her mouth. She was appalled and afraid, but there was no sadness or regret in her look. Jake felt he had seen through how she felt about Stephen wrong, and couldn't help feeling sorry for the guy. With a gesture, he said calmly, "Take him to the hospital." 3 days. Stephen had been trapped there for 3 days. Handcuffed to the bed, he was only taken to the bathroom by 2 strong guards when necessary. The rest of the time, he was trapped in bed without freedom. Staring at the ceiling, Stephen had a blank look. Without being sent to the hospital, he was actually brought to another property under Jake's name. 2 guards were always at the door, and 2 nannies were always next to his bed. He had to admit that Jake was thoughtful and sly. Stephen had never known that someone could be so wicked. Jake set him and Lila up, and treated him like a fool. After being pulled into that room by the bodyguards, Stephen had thought he would really be tortured. However, they set him in front of a screen, which showed Lila's expression clearly. Her fear, joy, calculation, shock, and how she looked after hearing that he had committed suicide. Everything made him feel desperate. He had thought that she would see what he had done for her. He had thought that she would know that, no matter how ruthless she was, this sacrifice of his would at least be recognized and felt bad about. However, the reality was like one slap after another, hitting his face hard. Stephen stared at the ceiling, laughing. Tears fell from his eyes. He was like a wounded joker, pathetic and laughable. Hey, now what is this about? A teasing voice made him turn his head towards the door. It was the special assistant of Jake, the woman with whom he had 2 encounters with. Looking at him, Miranda Young suggested with a pretty smile, "Shall we have a talk?" Stephen was sent to the hospital, and Jake immediately left. Lila had a good night of sleep in the room he arranged for her. When she woke up, it was noon. Stretching her arms, she was greeted by a housemaid before she said anything. The maid was respectful and humble. She felt like a royal concubine of the ancient times. Utterly satisfied, she squinted her eyes, enjoying the maid's service. During the whole time, she did not say anything to the maid. After washing and breakfast, Lila strolled to the garden, finding the front yard and backyard were surrounded by beautiful murals 6 feet tall. 2 maids quietly followed her as she walked around the property. In the afternoon, she returned to her room satisfactorily. Pushing the windows open, she wanted to look at the view outside, but found that she could only see the garden and a thick wall. A legend of the Roman Empire was painted on the wall. Summer had passed, but the garden was still lush and full of flowers. The wind brushed by the grass and flowers. Lila felt something was off. But what was it? Leaving the window open, she sat on the bed. She selected the photos she had just taken and sent them to Serena via her phone. The first class in the afternoon had just started, and Serena's cell phone rang non-stop as the professor walked in. She was mortified. She quickly apologized and silenced her phone. As her phone buzzed, she saw notifications that she had received pictures. They were sent from Lila Cox. Serena did not even want to look at them. When she was about to put the cell phone in her bag and focus on the lecture, a line of text popped out. "Look, this is a gift from Jake. She frowned and tapped on it. The whole text showed, "Look, this is a gift from Jake. A house so big, so good." More than 20 photos. She looked through them. It was the property in Barton Hills, where Grandpa had passed away in her previous lifetime. It had indeed been Jake's property. After their divorce in her previous lifetime, it had been given to her as part of the alimony. However, why would Jake give the property to Lila now? While Serena was dazed, her phone buzzed again. It was another message from Lila. "Have to go now. Jake is here to see me." There was a wink emoji at the end of the message. Seeing that, Serena frowned again. Jake was there to see her. Now? Wasn't he on a business trip? Serena responded back with a thumbs up. After 1 or 2 minutes, Lila replied with nothing but a selfie. In the photo, Lila looked a bit pale because of her pregnancy. However, she had a brilliant smile on her face. The side of her face looked gorgeous. Behind her, a familiar, tall figure was right there. His face was cold as always. Jake was looking down at some documents in front of him, looking like he was working. He had his back toward the camera, which meant Lila was taking the selfie secretly behind him. Judging by the decoration and background, the house was his style, looking exactly the same as the place that Serena had moved into in her last lifetime. She tightened her grip on the phone, looking at the man in the photo incredulously. This is Jake. Isn't he on a business trip? Shouldn't he be on a flight? Why is he in the property in Barton Hills? And why is he with Lila Cox? Sitting through the lecture with an uneasy mind, she quickly called Jake up when the class was over. His phone was powered off. Then she called Miranda, who quickly picked up. "Hello, Mrs. Robinson?" After a second of silence, Serena said, "Miranda, I want to ask you something, and I hope you can answer me honestly." Normally, nothing good would follow that sentence. Miranda became focused and said, "Absolutely." "Where is Mr. Robinson?" Miranda suddenly had some bad presentiments. Why did she feel that Serena had learned everything? However, with some thought, Miranda still said what she was supposed to say. "He has gone to Beijing for a meeting. It would probably take him a while. He should be on a flight right now." Really? She felt even more nervous. However, as a professional executive assistant, she said calmly, "Yes." "Okay, thank you." Hanging up, Serena lost her calm, her head filled with one thought. He lied to her.